Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we're reacting to the Phil's first series win of the year. They take 2 of 3 from the Washington Nationals. We'll talk about the good and the bad from this weekend series that just went on. Also, we'll preview the matchup starting tonight. No rest for the Phils. No, they're heading right to St. Louis to take on the Cardinals tonight. So we'll look into tonight's game and the series in general. And then also a huge injury when it comes to the NL East race. We'll discuss the latest on Spencer Strider, the Braves ace, and where his season could be heading. So we'll talk about all of that in today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is another episode of Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. I appreciate everyone who's already done that and anyone who's going to. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB, and you can use code, it's all lowercase, LockedOnMLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. Also, just a reminder, if you're catching new podcast episodes as soon as games get done, that's our postcast. It's a new thing we're doing here on Locked On. Mark Farzetta is the host. It's an additional podcast to what I do here Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. So if you hear anything from Mark Farzetta on the feed or see any videos, he's in addition, he's helping us out. He's doing a great job so far. Now, people are saying Farzetta comes on and all of a sudden they start winning series. And yeah, has he improved the Phillies' play? To be seen, but Mark's capable of a lot of things. Let's talk about that improved play by the Philadelphia Phillies, because some people were still a little bit upset with the Philadelphia Phillies after this series in Washington because of a lack of offensive output. And I get that. I'm not going to call those fans crazy at all. When you look at what happened over the weekend, the Phillies won 4-0 against the Nationals on Friday. They won 5-2 against the Nationals on Saturday, and they lost 3-2 yesterday. So a total of 11 runs in a series against the Washington Nationals does not exactly sound like the offensive output you'd expect from the Phillies. Now, it was pretty cold down there in Washington, so you're still kind of waiting for the weather to break. I know other teams have experienced better offensive days in cold weather. Like the Yankees have been scoring a lot of runs. The Orioles scored a lot of runs. Like there are teams in baseball that have scored a significant amount of runs who play in cold weather environments. So it's not just that, but I'm just looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I don't think the Phillies have an offensive output issue. I really don't. Let's talk about the good from the weekend. Then we'll get into some things that need to improve. And there are certainly some things that need to improve. But the first thing that's good was Aaron Nola's start against the Nationals on Friday. He went 5 2/3 innings. He only allowed 2 hits. Now, he walked 4. He was kind of all over the place a little bit. 4 strikeouts, so not a high strikeout day. But he battled. Only allowed 2 hits, no earned runs. Much better than his start against the Atlanta Braves. Hopefully, that's a jump start to his season. The bullpen was outstanding in the series. I mean, the starting pitching was pretty darn good altogether. Ranger Suarez went out, and he battled his way to a victory on Saturday. Actually, was he credited with the win? I believe he was. Yes. Got a win on Saturday by going 6 innings, of 2 earned run ball, only allowing 4 hits. Striking out 4. Strikeouts tough to come by in this series against the Nationals. And then Christopher Sanchez gave you a good start yesterday. You just didn't get the offense to back up the stellar pitching performances. But let's look at the Philadelphia Phillies, right? This is awesome so far. The only bad start that a Philadelphia Phillies starter has had was Aaron Nola's against the Atlanta Braves, game 2 of the season. Every other start has been solid to great to exceptional, right? I'm not going to say Spencer Turnbull's first start was exceptional. I'm not going to say Christopher Sanchez was unbelievable yesterday. But what I will say is it seems like, and this isn't even the fully healthy Phillies rotation, Taijuan Walker coming back is going to make this rotation better when he does eventually come back from his shoulder impingement. But it seems like you're going to be able to count on consistently great starting pitching for the Philadelphia Phillies. And that's a huge part of the equation. I know the offense is going to come around. I do. It's just the pedigree of these guys is too much to overlook. The starting rotation is supposed to have that same pedigree with Nola, Wheeler, Suarez, Walker, Sanchez. Now, Turnbull in here. Turnbull doesn't quite have the same pedigree, but like you knew the rotation was supposed to be good. They're looking pretty darn good. And the bullpen has settled in as well. Jeff Hoffman still looks absolutely nasty. Matt Strahm has settled in a little bit more. Junior Marte's actually looked pretty all right. I mean, I'm not a huge Junior Marte guy, but for what you were probably expecting from him, he's been solid in his first couple of appearances of the year. So, yeah, things are good on the pitching front for the Philadelphia Phillies. On the offensive front, not great. Kyle Schwarber is having a really good start to the year. I had this thought earlier today. I was talking to someone about this. And we'll talk about Rojas in a second because he's in the bad category, unfortunately, because he has not been hitting. But if Rojas was not on this team, like let's say you went out and you got a center fielder this offseason and he was just like a lockdown, for sake of argument, let's say it's Mike Trout, and you just have literally nothing to worry about in center field. There's no conversation about that. Kyle Schwarber being leadoff would have gotten the brunt of the argument against like he did last year before Rojas was a part of the equation. I was like, this guy's not hitting. He's starting the season slow. And I would love to see what Phillies fans' reactions who didn't want Kyle Schwarber as the leadoff hitter would have to say about the slow start to the year. But now everyone's turned their attention to Rojas, and rightfully so. He's definitely in the bad category simply because of what he's putting together when it comes to his at-bats. He looks lost up there a lot of the times. The batting average is just flat out ugly. I mean, the guy's batting .045. That's not going to get the job done. As good as your defense is, you got to give more than that. And it's early. It's 9 games in, so I'm not going to make a determination. Last year, over like 150 at-bats, he hit over 300, 302. So maybe he'll figure it out. Maybe they got the book on him and he'll never be a major league hitter. We don't know yet. You got to keep trotting him out there. The fact that he made this team means they're willing to give him an opportunity. That opportunity needs to last longer than 9 games. And the Phillies are 1 game below 500. They're 4-5 to start the year. That's not ideal, but it's not, oh, this team is starting slow, they're terrible. Like, no, they're just fine. They have a really favorable schedule for the first couple months of the season, as I've told you about. So you can survive giving Rojas an extended tryout, basically, in center field. And if he doesn't work out there, you can play Pache. I don't think Pache is significantly better. Great defender, just like Rojas. Career 173 hitter. Not ideal. Doesn't have a hit this year in, 4 plate appearances? Like, it's just, you don't have Mike Trout waiting in the wings. And Whit Merrifield's too versatile to have as an everyday starter in the outfield. You need him to play infield at some points. Like, you need to just figure some of that stuff out. By the way, while we're talking about utility guys or backups, Edmundo Sosa, can't say enough good things about Eddie. Like, every time he's on the field, it feels like he does something that helps his team win. Not enough to be a starter because there's such talent in the infield, but he's a great, great depth piece. Here's the other bad that I want to get into, though, besides Rojas. Because I'm not worried about Castellanos yet. I'm not worried about Trey Turner yet when it comes to slow offensive output to start the season. Again, 9 games. Trey Turner, I'm sure, is going to settle in, and Castellanos is a streaky hitter. He'll have his hot streaks. He'll have his cold streaks. He's in one right now. But the base running has just been abysmal for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they've been thrown out on the base pass 5 times, outside of even stealing already this season through 9 games. Just very bad decision-making, ill-advised. Kyle Schwarber had one yesterday where for some reason he was running from first base on a line drive to center field. The ball never seemed like, from any indication from the center fielder, that it was going to get down. It seemed like he had it tracked the whole way. Double play inning over. And they probably don't win the game if Kyle Schwarber doesn't do that. It was early enough on. He was only at first base, but still, it's just mind-numbing base running mistakes for this team. I can't figure out how they keep doing it. This has been a problem for 2 years now, and I understand they want to be aggressive. The Nationals gave you a textbook class in why that can be beneficial yesterday. They ran all over the place on the Philadelphia Phillies, swiping extra bags, going first move on Sanchez and stealing second straight up. Like, it's helpful if you do it the right way. Right now, the Phillies base running is miserable. So that's going to have to improve. It's simple stuff. They haven't made the adjustment in past years. Kind of getting to the point where, okay, you guys need to figure out the base running. So they're getting another opportunity to do that tonight and through this next series. Coming up next, we're going to preview the matchup with the St. Louis Cardinals. What have the Cardinals done so far? How do the numbers look? What are the starting pitching matchups? I'll tell you all of that. My thoughts on the upcoming series as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Prize Picks first, though, because Prize Picks is awesome. They're America's #1 fantasy sports app. They got more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. You nail those, you're all good to go. You're going to want to get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. It's right around the corner. Playoffs are beginning like April 20th-ish. Yeah. So it's coming up in just like a week. We're going to get some basketball playoffs, week and a half or whatever. So you're going to want to check in on that with Prize Picks. They've got something for every sports fan. They're available in a bunch of states, 30 states, more than 30 states, I should say, across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So go ahead and check out Prize Picks. And you need to do this. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. And you'll get a first deposit match up to not 10, not 20, not 50, no, $100. Again, you download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy. Let's talk about the upcoming series now with the St. Louis Cardinals. Yes, the Cardinals had a really rough year last year. They completely just fell off from where they were the year before, 2022. You'll remember they won the Central. The Phillies meet them in the wild card series. And then the next thing you know, it's, you're in a position where you're going to the World Series and they go home. They had a strong year, though. Goldschmidt, an MVP candidate. Arenado, an MVP candidate. And now you just kind of look around and say, okay, last year they stunk. I think I combined sucked and stunk right there. They stunk. And what are they going to be this year? What's the talent level? Well, when you look at the numbers between these two teams and you look at what they're doing, the Phillies batting average, 229, doesn't sound great for the team, but St. Louis is only at 222. Phillies have scored just about the same amount of runs, 36-41. St. Louis has a couple more hits, but the Phillies have hit 3 more homers. St. Louis just doesn't have consistent enough offense. And the other thing that's not great for them, their ERA, their whip is higher, their number of walks are higher, their number of strikeouts are lower. Their opponent batting average is nearly 30 points higher than what the Philadelphia Phillies have at a .237. That's the thing. Phillies offense hasn't been great. Their pitching's been really good. The Cardinals offense has been okay. Their pitching has been okay. So they're kind of evening out the pretty even teams right now. And the Cardinals, 5-5. The Phillies, 4-5. We know that. But who have the Cardinals played? That's important, right? They just took 2 or 3 from the Marlins. Marlins are not that good this year. They took 2 or 3 from the Padres. It's like, okay, Padres are an okay team, but they're not insanely talented and everything like that. So you see that and you say, okay, we've got a little bit to keep an eye on. They're a solid team, but they haven't really nobody's proved anything through 9 games. Like, don't get me wrong, but they haven't really proved anything more than they're just an okay team. And we can look at some of the stats and the guys that are playing well for them. I mean, Nolan Arenado, he's got no home runs on the year, but he's batting .268 with 13 total bases, 4 ribbies. Nolan Gorman's got 2 homers. You got Paul Goldschmidt with a homer, but he's only batting .200. I mean, some of their big guys haven't gotten anything started yet. Guy you want to keep an eye on in this series, Brendan Donovan, batting .313 right now. He's got a home run as well, but like when you see someone in the amount of at-bats that he's put up so far this year, which isn't a lot when we talk about compiling stats. It's early on in the season, but I mean, he's got 17 total bases, batting .313 and 32 at-bats. These 32 at-bats are 5th highest on the team, I think. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5th highest on the team. So that's a guy that you're going to see and say, I don't really recognize the name. The name value isn't there. The talent level has been there to start the year. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, you're always going to look at Arenado and Goldschmidt as problems in this series. So that's what the Phillies pitchers have to contend with. Speaking of the pitchers, here are the matchups for the series. So tonight, you've got Spencer Turnbull against Miles Mikolas. Mikolas, the clearly better pitcher in this one by pedigree. Turnbull, the better first start of the year. Mikolas has already made 2 starts, by the way. All right, he's got another loss. Has he made 2 starts? It's kind of weird that they played 10 games and he's made 2 when he's starting in their 11th game. But yeah, he's made 2 starts. I guess they had just like days off and they're going shorter rotation. Bottom line is, Mikolas is a talented pitcher. The St. Louis Cardinals are favored in tonight's contest. We don't have a lineup yet for either team, but understandable from the pitching matchup if you don't believe in Spencer Strider. Game 2 is going to be obviously back to Zach Wheeler for the Phillies. Sonny Gray for the St. Louis Cardinals. Sonny Gray, pretty darn good last year. Hasn't made an appearance yet this year. So he's going to make his first start of the year tomorrow against the Philadelphia Phillies. And then this series ending game on Wednesday is going to be a matchup of Aaron Nola and Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn led the majors in home runs allowed last year. That's a guy you can get after. Talent, yes. Ability to give the long ball, also yes. And that's kind of the calling card for that matchup because that's been an issue with Aaron Nola recently too. But I mean, I look at all that and I say, okay, Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, Miles Mikolas, those are 3 solid pitchers against a team whose offense has not been outstanding yet this year in the Philadelphia Phillies. It sort of feels like this is a series that could be a tough one for the Phils to continue to produce offense or like to start to produce offense. Here's the key, though. I'm pulling up my handy-dandy weather app. Some people might scoff at this and say, oh, well, there's teams playing cold weather or windy weather, rainy weather that have been able to create offense. Why do you care so much about the weather for the Phillies? I mean, it's just easier for them to play when it's warmer out. Guess what? Today, high of 79 in St. Louis, Missouri. Tomorrow, 73. Wednesday, 71 with a slight chance of rain, but you're getting really solid weather out there in St. Louis. It's going to feel a lot more like baseball season. Maybe that helps the offense come around. Maybe at least evens out some solid pitching strength from the Cardinals, but their bullpen isn't amazing. I can say that again. So if you can get through the starters, maybe you'll be able to run it up. My expectations for this series, they should win this series. The Phillies are the better team than the St. Louis Cardinals. But the Cardinals aren't a pushover, and they've got some star power both in the rotation and at the plate. Yeah, if the Phillies take 2 out of 3, I'm happy. If the Phillies lose 2 out of 3, I'm a little bit annoyed with them. They're not going to get swept. I don't believe the Phillies are going to get swept with Wheeler and Nola both going. And I don't think they're going to sweep the Cardinals. Like, the Cardinals are a solid enough team. You didn't sweep the Nationals. You can see it's hard to sweep teams in baseball. I'd say that Wheeler, you can expect to find you a win. The baseball gods owe him one after 2 great starts and 2 games that the Phillies did not come out on the right side of. Nola could settle in, but I think you're going to be guaranteed at least 1 win because of the Wheeler start. Then either Nola needs to continue to dazzle or Spencer Turnbull. Maybe he looks really good tonight. Never know. We're going to talk about that game and reaction to it on tomorrow's episode, but there's something else we need to react to too in today's episode. There's a big injury in the division, in baseball, and everything. Spencer Strider has an elbow issue. I'm going to tell you what you need to know, what we know so far about Strider's elbow issue and how it affects the NL East race and the matchup between the Phillies and the Braves. So we'll get into that coming up as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. And let's talk about Game Time, all right? Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. I mean, anything you could think of, it's like, wow, ticket places should have this. Ticket websites should have that. Game Time has it. They do it so right. They take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's not just Major League Baseball, though, right? Comedy, theater, concerts, all of that stuff you can find on Game Time. But, of course, this is Locked On Phillies. You tuned in because you're a fan of baseball and a fan of the Phillies. So let me tell you a little bit about what they're going to tell you. They've got zone deals where you save even more when you choose a section, like Game Time choose the seats. They got flash deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game. You got seat views, so you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a lower price on same row and section. So they just got you completely covered. You got to check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase for $150 or more in the Game Time app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. Again, that's code FIRSTPITCH, all together, all like one word, for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This is big news in baseball, right? I want to put this out here because I talked about this on the radio earlier today, and I mean to be fully 100% clear with this. I think Spencer Strider is kind of a weird dude, and that might be understating it a little bit. He's a weirdo, and some athletes are weirdos, and that's fine. I don't mean that in a derogatory term. He's just, if you've heard anything he has to say, he's kind of a strange cat, and that's fine. Like, there are a lot of strange players that I really, really enjoy watching and rooting for. And just as like somebody who enjoys baseball, you heard me talk about it with Jake, host of Locked On Braves, when we did our crossover ahead of opening day. I'm like, how awesome is it that we get to watch Strider versus Wheeler? I want to see Spencer Strider pitch. Like, I do. He's outstanding. He's got electric stuff. Like, I don't root for the guy, obviously, because he plays for a division rival, the Phillies' biggest rival, but it's hard not to be in awe of his stuff. Baseball is better when he can pitch. So I'm not sitting here saying, even though I think he's a little weird, I'm not sitting here saying, like, oh, this is good news. Spencer Strider has an elbow injury. Not at all. The game of baseball is worse off without Spencer Strider. There's a good chance he's the best pitcher on the planet right now. But unfortunately for Braves fans, he's got an elbow issue, a UCL sprain or strain of some sort. They're still trying to basically nail down exactly what the treatment plan is going to be. There is a chance that it's Tommy John surgery and the season is over for Spencer Strider. So what does that mean? Well, one, it means the Braves lose their ace, which is a huge blow in the NL East race. I know in 2021, when they won the World Series, they had a rotation that wasn't exactly stellar, but that's a big blow. He was a guy that was going to be a top candidate for the Cy Young Award in the National League. And now after, 2 starts, just gone, poof, season could be over. That makes it harder for the Braves to compete. Does this mean that I now expect the Philadelphia Phillies to win the NL East? That's a deeper conversation. We can get into that on the next off day and when we see a little bit more about what's going on and if he's actually going to be done for the season, because that hasn't been confirmed yet by anyone. That's the assumption, and you know what happens when you assume things, but that is the assumption I'm working under right now, is that Spencer Strider will have Tommy John surgery. I'm not reporting anything, but that's what this feels like to me, just seeing everything other pitchers have gone through, most recently for the Phillies, Andrew Painter, last offseason. I think the Braves' offense is still talented enough that it can carry them to a division title. Even if the Phillies win like 94, 95 games, I still think the Braves are going to be right around there. What this makes a huge difference for me is not so much the divisional race, it's for a potential playoff matchup. Now everybody slots down. So instead of having Strider to neutralize Wheeler, now you've got Wheeler against a lesser pitcher, whether that ends up being Max Fried, whether it ends up being Chris Sale, whoever they end up getting up there. And this is projecting way out down the line. But the top of your rotation just took a major, major hit. The Braves are still going to be a good baseball team. They're still going to compete. They're still going to be a playoff team. Fully expect all of that to be the case. But when you lose your best arm potentially for the year, only a couple of weeks into the season, that's a change in the landscape of the NL East and of baseball in general. So is it good that Strider got hurt? No. You never root for injuries. I will never be one of the guys that does that. I know there's some people out there on social media that root for injuries. That's ridiculous. I think it's despicable. Is it good for the Phillies' chances that Spencer Strider is not going to be able to pitch? I'd be lying to you if I said no. So it's a big development. We'll see if it is indeed Tommy John surgery from him, but maybe this changes the Phils' ability to win the East. We'll see. We'll keep you updated on everything. It's a shame considering the talent level of pitcher he is, but for the Phils, it could give them an opportunity. Just the latest on that to update you on. But the Phils have to take care of their own business. They got to keep guys healthy. They got to start winning more games. They'll get a chance tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals, 7:45 p.m. first pitch, Eastern Standard Time, by the way. And we'll have your reaction to that game on tomorrow's episode. But that's all for today's episode. So thank you so much for checking us out. Again, this has been a podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. All of that really great stuff that helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. I appreciate everyone who's doing that, who did that, who's going to do that, all of the various tenses, past and present, of helping us out there. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.